Welcome everyone. We are running this month research seminars, and for this session, I have the great pleasure to receive Rodrigo Cerqueira, who is the CEO of Panorama, and he is gonna give us more details about his role and what the cool stuff that has been doing for the past decades. But Rodrigo is, between many things, a video, a film director, and more specifically, director and producer of virtual reality, extended reality films. And we have the great honor to be working with Rodrigo for the last 2 or 3 years on a current project funded by NASA, another project also funded by the DoD. So our group here from Stratus, and just saw that Chuck just joined us, and also Rodrigo's team at Panorama, and other team members at the Radiant Images, between many people, Michael Mansouri. We've been working together these 2 projects for a while, and I invited Rodrigo to talk to us about the metaverse. That's completely related to the things we are doing in extended reality, and bring us some definitions and applications in education and medicine, some of his experience and expertise of being in this area for so long, much before the term metaverse was coined, and working in some very interesting industry that not necessarily were related to education, and now translating his work into education and healthcare. So we're really happy to have you here, Rodrigo. Thank you very much for accepting the invite to be here in our research seminars.
My pleasure.
So, yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and then you can share yours, okay?
All right, sounds good. You guys hear me okay? I didn't hear you, Roger, so can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. So, okay, it's a little strange. I can't see myself, so it's all good. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to share, pretty much this last 12 years of this crazy journey into the metaverse with you guys. Like you already said, Roger, I think we've been introduced about like 3 years ago, right? Like March 2019. So my friend and partner, Michael Mansouri from Radiant Images, he invited me to this crazy project that he was, working on. And it was a great surprise for me when I arrived at Harvard, actually at the Stratus, and meet you, Chuck, Yuli, and all the team, knowing that what you guys did without virtual reality, without extended reality, was already impressive. I was really excited to see what you can actually do using like the physical world to train people, because all of my training experience came from virtual reality training, extended reality training. And I was like, okay, this is so different, so cool. So I was really excited. But at the same time, you had a massive, I would say, roadblock, that was the how can you scale? How can you all of a sudden train like thousands of people, right? So other than creating thousands of Stratus centered all over the world, so that was the challenge. So immediately, I connected with everything that I was working on, everything that I've been working on for, I would say, more than actually since 1995. In 95, I'm not sure how many of you guys really remember what happened in that year, but basically between 94 and 95, the internet became commercial. So it became open to, like, everyone that wants to connect it wants to be connected to this, online universe or integrated universe, just get an account at American Online and get a computer with a modem, connect a telephone line, and all of a sudden you're in the internet. So yeah, that's exactly where my journey started. Actually, it started a few years ago with a BBS, bulletin board and system, but that was previous to the internet. So basically, I would like to kind of share with you my years of experience in this. Now everybody likes to use this word metaverse, but yeah, I hope you like it. So I'm gonna try to do the boring part as fast as I can, and then we can jump to the funny part quicker. Okay, so Pentagramma is my company. I found Pentagramma, founded 12 years ago, and basically from the get-go, the opportunity for me was to work with advertising agencies and companies in general. So I did a bunch of work for you name it, from IBM to Oakley to Disney, Facebook, Google, YouTube. But it was like that. It was like VR campaigns or 360 video campaigns. For example, the first 360 video on YouTube, we created, the company that I was working with, Yellowbird, created on YouTube in October 2010. And if you remember, 360 videos on YouTube started to become popular in 2015. So yeah, we were like 5 years ahead in terms of development. But in this sort of a strange type of new market that I was in, I spent the last few years just doing advertising and campaigns. That was it. And then I would say the turning point was in 2015 when I was invited to be the virtual reality director, some sort of a technical director, for a film called Jesus VR, the story of Christ. And actually it was the first time I stepped my foot on a film set, and I can't even describe it. It was transformative for me because I'm a cinephile. I love cinema. I love watching cinema, discuss about the art, the visual arts in general, and having the opportunity of working with the same production company that work on Passion of Christ, right? Everybody but Mel Gibson. So yeah, he wasn't involved in Jesus VR. That's what I meant. So we shot in Italy. It was transformative. So I said, from then on, that's what I would like to do. I would like to be involved as much as possible in feature films and in original content. So that's when I moved to the United States. I'm a Brazilian person, and I try to kind of mimic in the United States what I was doing in Brazil, but for original content. So then I had the opportunity to produce and direct Seven Miracles, which is my second feature film in virtual reality. And for Seven Miracles, we did something a little bit different. What some people can kind of say that it's kind of a prelude of the metaverse or the multi-reality type of distribution deal. So when we produced Seven Miracles, we were interested in not only create something for the virtual reality headsets, but for like flat televisions, standalone VR headsets, or mobile headsets, or mobile phones, domes, churches. So we're trying to be as broad as possible in terms of distribution. And so we create this very incredible experience with our partners, HTC. For Seven Miracles, what I would like to do was not create a feature film in virtual reality only, so I would like to explore like what is the boundaries of virtual reality, when or where virtual reality kind of merge with other mediums. Or because if you think about most of the films in virtual reality today, or most of the 360 videos, you only have what we call 3 degrees of freedom. You can only move your head up, down, left, and right. You can actually, stand up and walk around the scene. And that's what I would like to explore. And that's where it start this kind of, new boundary that we had to move forward. So for Seven Miracles, we introduced in a feature film for the first time, volumetric scenes. And this was very, let's say, groundbreaking. We shot Seven Miracles in 2017. And you see where this all fit in what we have to show you today. But basically, there were some parts on Seven Miracles that you were able to stand up and walk around the scene. In order to do that, we had to do 2 things. Basically, one was to capture the entire environment where we're shooting. For example, this was a kitchen in south of Italy. So we took probably like 1,500, 1,800 photos of this environment. And we recreate this environment in 3 dimensions. But then we need to capture the actors as well. So we captured the actors using a new technology called volumetric capturing. It's basically, it's like this. So you capture one actor from multiple cameras. For example, in this stage, you have 32 different cameras. So because of that, because you have the actors being captured from different points of views, you can then connect them or stitch the images together, combining the images together, and creating more like a volume instead of a flat video. And we did this in 7 occasions on Seven Miracles. So each individual miracle, we have one what we call volumetric moment. But then everything kind of move, right? So after Seven Miracles, we started to explore like what's the next 10 years will bring us. And obviously some of the things that we discussed was how artificial intelligence will play a huge role in the blockchain, in Metaverse, in Web3, in crypto. And each of those names, each of those areas of interest will generate infinite amount of hours of discussions of panels, right? So if you're interested in some of those areas, I strongly suggest you to start to follow some people on Twitter and sign up for some newsletters and blogs, because there are so many things that you need to understand just to try to keep up with it, the technology right now. But anyway, we were interested in understanding how the AI and let's say how the AI will kind of connect all these universes. And we started to explore, right? But in order to show you what we've been doing, first, let me try to kind of, give you some definitions just to, give you guys a chance to kind of accommodate with the things that I'm going to show you. So yeah, by now, everybody pretty much knows about what virtual reality is. But if you doesn't understand the kind of differences between virtual reality and augmented and mixed and extended reality, so here's kind of a very easy way for you to understand. So virtual reality is a computer-generated simulation, a simulated world. So basically everything you see is simulated. It's not there. It's that, it's a computer graphics. It's a computer based. But users in virtual reality normally block the universe, the outside universe. So everything you see, everything you experience, it's inside the headset. So nobody's watching what you're watching. And here's one example, okay? I think, if you pay attention in any, media ad for the last 2 years, you know what this is. This is probably the most well-played game in virtual reality ever. It's called Beat Saber. There's a lot of fun. And if you haven't experienced it yet, I strongly suggest you do. And then you have augmented reality, which is basically computer-generated objects presented to the users in the physical world. So basically imagine, for example, Pokemon Go. I think that's the perfect example, right? So you're walking around with your phone, trying to catch some Pokemons. By the way, this is not my type of game, but when it was launched in the peak, 60 million people per day were walking around, trying to catch some Pokemon. It was crazy. It was a hit. So basically what you see here is you point in your cell phone to your physical world, and then you see, computer generated animations and objects into your screen. Then you have mixed reality, which basically, put almost like two of them together. So it's a computer generated objects that interacts with the user physical world. So imagine, like, I think this is one of the greatest examples. This wasn't a campaign made by Volvo with a headset manufacturer called Vario. And here's what you're seeing. The driver actually is driving around with the physical world completely blocked from her. So she's kind of driving blind. But because this headset has incredible pair of cameras, everything that it's in front of her is being projected back to the virtual reality headset. But then once the image inside the headset is exactly what you're seeing in front of you, you can kind of blend together those two worlds. And she all of a sudden can start to do all of the crazy things with the car in front of her. So this is one of the many examples of mixed reality. And then we have extended reality, which is like all of this combination, all of these industries, coming together. And there are right now a lot of interest in extended reality as a whole. But basically, these are one of the most head investors in extended reality world right now. I would include probably another 20 more, but those are definitely the ones that are investing the most right now. And then you have the metaverse. And the metaverse, it's a quasi universe. It's like it's your world, but not here. So it's kind of difficult to kind of put in just one word. But Neil Stephenson wrote a book called Snow Crash many years ago, and he was the first one to use this term metaverse. But I like Matthew Ball's kind of definition, and that goes like, metaverse is a persistent 3D virtual world. It's a network of interconnected experience and devices, tools and infrastructure, far beyond more virtual reality. So basically what he's trying to say is the metaverse it's a place or places in which if I'm experiencing something, that is not here, and maybe not in virtual reality, maybe you're in your phone, you're experiencing the same thing. So it's persistent. It's a 3D world, right? So it's a virtual world, but our devices are connected. So I'm not playing or experiencing this alone. I'm experiencing this with other people. And at the same time, I have all of the tools on my disposal. So imagine everything you have on the internet today, all of the tools that you have on the internet at your disposal, but you have that with this another layer that some people are calling right now a spatial layer, because it's not flat anymore. You're not using your screen. Everything is fluid. Everything, you can move inside this world. And I know most of people know the term metaverse because basically there's a company out there that has approximately 2 billion people as users that just changed their name to Meta right now. So I think most of the people knows metaverse because of that changing name. But actually, it's a term that we've been using for like 20 something years. So I like very much this kind of illustration, because basically the metaverse, you can show it like this. If you think that you have a layer of immersion in front of you that you can access through virtual reality, for example, or you can access through augmented reality, or even like phones, regular phones or laptops or screens, any screen, a computer screen or a smart TV screen, whatever. That's the immersive layer that connects you to the metaverse. So obviously, if you're in virtual reality, your level of immersiveness will be greater. If you're just in your laptop, obviously you can be immersed as well, but less immersed. So let's say, for example, there is a very popular game called Fortnite. And in this game, it's a virtual world. And basically what you can do in this game is you can socialize, but normally you loot, you build, you mine. That's basically what you do, and you fight against other people. But then in this metaverse, because Fortnite is a metaverse, or has some characteristics of the metaverse. In this metaverse, you can play with other people. You can play with people that not necessarily are using computers. Maybe they're using cell phones. And eventually, in the future, games like this or experiences like this, you would be able to enter with headsets, with this year's Apple Watch, Apple glasses. We don't even know the name of how they will call it, but Apple whatever in your face. So yeah, so the immersiveness level will be dictated by things like haptics. If you're using a suit that gives you like haptic feedback, then obviously you have a very deeper or immersiveness, right? So that brought us to our case. So what you're about to see was, I've never shown this to anyone before. I think you were the first ones to be able to see this. I'm very happy to show you. This was produced by Pantagramma and our partners and friends at Radiant Images. So let me do this. One second.
Okay, this is a 2 years in a make project. So basically, we capture the entire strata simulator. Like, it's a replica of what it is in International Space Station. And then we did it in photogrammetry. Now we have a rough model of everything. Now we just need to capture the actors. So that's what we've been doing the last 2 days, just rehearsing and then getting to the mood. And actually today we shot 2 scenarios. One is a pneumothorax and another one is a smoke inhalation. So it's 2 very difficult scenarios that could happen in space and happen in the space actually. And if that happened, we kind of provide a best alternative for the outcome. If the students, if the astronauts follow exactly what this training give them, basically they will save lives in space. Because basically in the process, we got engineers, NASA engineers, NASA astronauts, PhDs, professors, and doctors, and pretty much all of the most experts in their field for the last 14 months, just to kind of give us everything we need in order to create the scenarios. Now that we had all the questions and we create everything, all the mood, then was the time for us to shoot everything, and that's what we did today.
Hey Parker, thanks for coming. I'm not sure what's going on. His breathing's getting worse. Maybe it has something to do with the decompression.
It really hurts when I breathe.
Okay, Brett, let's get you lying on the platform. Hey Parker, he looks much worse. What do you think we should do? What are you feeling now, Brett?
Having a hard time catching my breath.
Can you show me where the pain is?
Oh, it's right here.
Okay, Brett, I'm gonna listen to your lung sounds. It may hurt a bit, but I'm gonna need you to take deep breaths so that I can hear your sounds, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna check your skin and inside of your mouth.
Okay.
Okay, you're a little bit sweaty, but your mouth isn't dry. Okay, Brett, I'm gonna check your blood pressure. Let me have your arm. Okay, Brett, you have a tension pneumothorax on your left side. Pressure has built up on the left side, where you have a collapsed lung. That's what's causing the pain, shortness of breath, and low oxygen levels. If we don't do something, it's going to get worse. Hey, Parker, he's getting worse. Do you think that we need to do the needle decompression now? Okay, Brett, I'm gonna clean your chest. Now I'm gonna numb the area up with some lidocaine. Now I'm gonna insert the needle. It's in. I can hear air coming out. How are you feeling?
I start to feel better.
Parker, I think it's working.
Yeah, I'm feeling so much better.
Fantastic. Now I have to put in this catheter to make sure that air can come out and then can go in just at the end of the valve.
Do whatever you have to do.
Okay. How are you feeling now, Brett?
Still a little bit of pain, but my breathing's a whole lot better. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That was it. So there's so much stuff that we can discuss about it. So Roger, if you want to kind of, start this, or kick the ball, but basically what I would like to say first is, I'm not sure if you guys were able to notice, but what you saw actually was recorded inside a virtual reality headset. Actually was this headset here, a completely, standalone mobile VR headset. And I was immersed inside the experience. I was able to walk around anywhere I wanted. It wasn't just a, you know, a 360 experience that you walk, sorry, you only have like 3 degrees of freedom, but it was actually what we call 6 degrees of freedom. So I was able to, you know, walk anywhere I wanted. I only was able to do that because first we did a photogrammetry out of Stratus, a Stratus simulator center. And we create this photogrammetry. And in post-production, we were able to generate like a 3D model. So that alone will give you the ability of walk around the space. But then if you do that, you don't have any actors. So we needed to, you know, shoot the actors, shoot the actual scenes or the scenarios, how you want to call them. But if you shoot the actors like a traditional way, the actors will be flat, just like, you know, there won't be any 3 dimensions on the actors. And then you'll feel that it's fake. So the only way for us to do that would be shooting the actors actually in a volume, in what we call a volumetric capture system. And we shot that using Metastage, which is a volumetric stage around here in Los Angeles. And then, yeah, we have the actors, and we were able to have like the raw form of the videos. It's like a traditional video. If you shoot with your camera, you have the raw format of that video. And then what you need to do, you need to do the post-production. So in our case, the post-production took 6 months for like 12 minutes of experience. And why is that? It's because basically the video is huge. It's not only one, you know, one vision, one camera. There were more than, you know, 100 cameras in order to shoot those actors. And then we have this kind of huge files, and we need to compress the files and optimize the files. And other than that, we got to make the cuts. I'm sure you noticed, but once in a while, the actress asks you, what should she do? And it's up to you telling her, okay, you should do this or that. In order to do that, you need to cut each individual part of the film and create it in a way that makes sense. If, for example, I choose the answer number 5 and not the answer number 2, what that means in terms of storytelling, what that means in terms of branch narrative, will that affect the end outcome or not? So in a way, it's like creating a video game, but a very controlled video game in which you don't have the ability to, for example, choose not to do something, you know, so you got to do something, you got to do something in order to move from A to B. But on those boundaries, it's like a video game. And we believe that Roger and Stratus team will kind of prove that, and I hope they prove it, that if we, you know, use this as an education methodology, it is as efficient as if they go to Stratus and do the training by themselves. Obviously, nothing will substitute the human factor, right? So if you're there, you can ask them whatever you want. You can pause how much as you want. You can kind of, you know, let the experience flow. But obviously, in terms of scalability, I don't think there will be thousands of Rogers at anyone's disposal. So this is the closest thing to kind of, you know, get all this experience that we gather from all this, you know, great experts in their field, and put together in a very small, concise way in an experience. So, Roger?
That's good. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. It's a great presentation. And the first time I'm seeing like the video, just send that to me like 5 minutes before the presentation. So it's really great to see like behind the scenes, all this like 2 years work we've been done with this project, right? And also great to see like how we've been working on this like for so long. And as you mentioned, like at the beginning of the internet, the 1.0 internet, right? And now we're talking about Web 3.0. So it's really great So I'm gonna open here to see if other people have questions or comments, and then I have a few questions for you. But does anyone have a question, comment? You can either put on the chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I have a question. Thank you, Rodrigo. That was such a wonderful presentation. You could feel the passion for the work, and I loved seeing the videos of kind of the backstage. My question, and I guess would be for both Roger and you, as a clinical psychologist in training, so I'm going to pull it a little bit to my end. How do you envision that this type of technology could be used to train healthcare workers in the mental health field, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and how do you envision that it could be used with patients in more of a clinical scenario? Do you envision this as a possibility?
100%. Thanks for your question. So obviously we're in the very beginning of what people are calling now metaverse. I don't know what we'll call in 10 years from now. But imagine 25 years ago without the internet, 27 years ago without the internet, right? So how could you do things that you do now? So let's say if you can't see someone physically right now without internet, that was it, right? So you're using your phone. So there's less and less immersiveness aspect on that kind of relationship. With the internet, well, we have Zoom, we have WeChat, we have many other audio, video messages or chatting type of applications. Then the immersiveness or the level of interactivity, it's greater. But imagine what you can do with this when there is no limits to your being. You can be transformed in this virtual person in the whatever we call in the metaverse, and that person in the metaverse could be a fully representation of what you are. Same physiological aspects if you want, or not. Maybe you're treating a child and you want to be like a child treating a child, and then you can be transformed into a child. So imagine, it's even like I can only say how big can this be, but I can't say like how can we use it? You know what I mean? Because it's at the very beginning. I can totally see, for example, an AI component learning through you. Let's say you were born, and then there's this AI component learning every experience that you have until you're a grown up, until you're an adult. And then imagine you're a professional. And imagine this professional, let's say, to use someone that everybody knows. Let's say it's Freud, right? So let's say the Freud of 20 years from now, 20 years from today, will have this AI companion. And let's say, through his entire life, he had many interactions with people. So he learned a lot of how the human being is, right? And let's say he dies. So imagine what this Freud from 20 years from now, this AI knows, and that can be replicated. That could be storage forever. I know there's, all sorts of perils in this kind of new territory, but so many opportunities. For example, what if I studied physics on college? So I was thinking about the other day, how great would be if we have had Einstein, recorded in the metaverse, or having him or having his brains in the metaverse, and you would be able to have a conversation with him. So I think the metaverse and everything that combines with the metaverse in the future, it's going to be like human being 2.0. You know what I mean? So we're not just what is inside our heads anymore. We can kind of extrapolate what is inside our head, and eventually this might be replicated for the good of the mankind. I know I've been too, philosophical and stuff. I know maybe you would like a more,
No, I
conscious
love it. I
of,
love it. It's a very exciting prospect.
Thank you.
maybe Roger has more, more analytical vision. I know you
Yeah.
have, Roger.
No, I really like
Always.
I really like that, Rodrigo, especially because we are here. It's a great time for us, right? Because we are the beginning of something, right? And you can imagine like the beginning, as you mentioned, the internet or any other technology that really revolutionized the world, right? When people were having discussions, right? So it's really great to be here. And really, we don't know, right? There are many don't knows, more don't knows than things that we know, right? And that's what exciting about, because that allow us not only to hypothesize about things, but also to test our hypotheses. And that's what we did in this project, right? I was discussing this that for this project, it's a research project, but we didn't know the method when we submitted the proposal, right? The proposal was really to find out what is our vision, was the proposal, but the method, especially because even in terms of technology change between submitting a proposal and doing the work, right? Everything changed, right? So it was really about, okay, this is our vision. How we're going to do, we don't know yet. We're going to find that out during the project, right? And that's what we did, right? We had some like general principles and of the technology, but everything is fluid. And when I think about the research point of view, right, that's also another lesson for like research labs, is that if you're very traditional, you're very like stuck on, oh, I can only use validated methods. Oh, you cannot do this because no one has never done this before. You're not going to do this type of work, right? You really have to be like outside the box and being comfortable with uncertainty and just like getting the vision and getting the right people, right? And doing the work as you guys did. So it's really great. I have a question here, Rodrigo, that's interesting for the volumetric video, right?
Sure.
The question is a question we have many times. It's like, great work. I have a technical question. What is the difference to your approach in doing the VR video and designing the actors from scratch using software like video games and having actors just do voiceovers?
No, it's a perfect question. Actually, the way that most of the people do right now is just using mocap, and mocap is like a suit or a bunch of cameras that can capture your movement, and then we translate that movement into 3 dimension. Obviously, it doesn't capture you; only captures what we call the skeleton, right? So even like the fingers, there are some technologies out there to really capture, very accurate fingers movements, even the face movements, and you can use that to animate one character. Like, so we call this processing, we call it the rigging and animating the character. We decided not to do that. It was a personal decision, right? So I'm like I mentioned before, I'm a cinephile guy, so I love being in the presence of the actors and see them working the art, right? So, and I think with the best and the greatest artists of today, it's still very difficult to kind of is exactly mimicking the nuances of human expression. Very small nuances, like the way that you look, the way that you wrinkle your face, whatever. It's difficult, and I didn't feel like I would like to go to that route, just because it's not the route that I'm more used to. And I think volumetric video has a lot of limitations, definitely. But I think for this project was the one of the technology that we could use. Nowadays, we were very happy to have the support of Unreal. Unreal is Epic Games. Epic Games has a game engine called Unreal. So we use Unreal in order to create this experience. In Unreal right now, you have features that allows you to kind of create a full human being. It's called metahumans, right? So if you're a very good artist, you can kind of get the best, facial and body animation possible today using metahumans. For example, if you guys watch the Matrix 4, the latest Matrix, Epic Games, they put together like a gameplay, and it was all done and using MetaHuman in Unreal, and it was amazing. But again, you need a lot of money and a lot of artists in order to do that. And what this project has was kind of the opposite. We were almost like an indie company doing this. I'm not saying this was a low budget project, but in terms of the cinema, it was like a micro budget project. If you look into cinema budgets in a whole. So yeah, we decided to use volumetric video instead of rigging and animating a character. It was just like a tool of choice, I would say.
And Rodrigo, next question from Alessio. Strong work. For Rodrigo, what was the biggest challenge in creating this project? And also from my perspective, what is the biggest challenge? So why don't you answer that first?
Oh boy. Like Roger said, for me as a producer and director, it was a challenge to embark in something that I didn't know. It was almost like an unscripted film for me, right? So you know that you have a date to start shooting, a date to start a post-production. You don't know what you're shooting, and you don't know what the post-production will look like. So it was almost like a unscripted kind of film or series, whatever you want to call it. I think that part for me was the most scariest part. But I'm not too afraid of anything. So I was like, okay, cool. So let's try to figure it out one step each time. So we had a great relationship with all Stratus team. So they were kind of, okay, don't worry, it's normal in the investigation. We do this type of things. We need to figure out the methodology. So they kind of, gave me a whole bunch of experience on that direction as well. But for me, definitely the most difficult parts wasn't, the technology itself. It was more like the parts that I don't master. And fortunately, what I don't master, Roger and his team, they are the best.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rodrigo. And also from our side here, Alessio, like from simulation, right, and medical education, the main challenge was how to design the scenarios, right? Because what we understand as a scenario here in high fidelity simulation, right? So we have some constraints. So we say, okay, you're in a simulation center, let's say in the operating room or the emergency room. You have this type of equipment, this type of material, here's the patient. Then we design, right, the patient physiology, the patient's complaints, and we have some constraints. We say, okay, in this hospital, you can decide to transfer the patient, or in this hospital, you have a angioplasty service, or you don't have. So we have some constraints, but then once participants are in the scenario, it's an open work, right? Whatever they say, they have an answer from the mannequin, because there is a human behind the mannequin giving them answers, right? Whatever they do, the simulated scenario somehow can produce a reliable and a response that makes sense, right? When you go to the scenario developed, right, Rodrigo, we had too many constraints because we had the branches, right? So if you decide to do this, this is what happened. If you decide to do this, this is what happened. But as more branches we had, longer will be the scenario and more expensive will be the project, right? So we had like a constraint, and we had like 16 minutes for 2 scenarios, right? That actually, I think
correct.
our initial idea was actually to be like 5 minutes each scenario, then it became like 7, 8. And then we had to create a realistic medical scenario that makes sense from the medical and space part, but has these constraints in terms of like number of options at the same time that also give them some options, right? And it's realistic. So that adaptation from creating a standard traditional simulation scenario to creating like a scripted scenario to be like filmed, right, is very, very different because we don't have this open world. We cannot just ask whatever you want and you have an answer, because we have not recorded all the answers, all the consequence of those actions. And that for me, in terms of like medical education simulation, was the main challenge in working with Rodrigo and the team. And also another thing, right, Rodrigo, is like there is the production part, the scripts and how the scripts look like and the branches. There is the medical education and medicine part, and there is the software architecture and software development part, right? So it's very common if we don't have a very aligned understanding and share mental model of what software requires, what is software development. As you may have experience, you put a lot of like clinicians to ask to develop something, right? You're gonna ask something that's like 100 times more than what the project it's capable to do, right? And all softwares developed, they'll say, can you do this? That's the question, right? As clinicians say, oh, can you add this? Can you add this to the AHR? Can you add this to the system? They say, yes, we can, but that costs this and takes this time, right? That's the question. So we didn't have those problems, right, Rodrigo? Because since the beginning, the entire team knew what are the constraints in terms of like production, in terms of medicine, in terms of software development. So every time we ask something, we knew, right, what that would require to do in terms of time and demand from software development, because Rodrigo has background software development as well, and we have some understanding software. So that was a challenge that worked very well, that coordination between like production, software development, and medicine, medical education, subject matter experts.
Correct.
Rodrigo, do you envision the possibility from a technology standpoint of having the medical trainee actually perform the clinical skills? Is to, yes, like needle decompression in your video one day?
You know what? I think that's the next boundary to be break, right? Which is the haptic part. I think once we're fully embodied into the metaverse, if we have, you know, haptics that kind of simulate touching objects, grabbing objects, it will be possible. I think eventually it'll be possible. If you look back like 40 years ago, if someone told you, obviously most of you are not 40 years old yet, but I'm almost 50. So if somebody asked me or asked my 15-year-old self, oh, do you know that in 35 years from now, you have this kind of experience? I would be very, yeah, I don't know if I would believe. I would say, yeah, of course, in the movies, right? In the movies, it happens all the time. But actually, what's happening now was probably predicted in movies in the 70s and the 60s, that one day you will live in this kind of a virtual simulated environment. So yeah, in my opinion, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not a simulation specialist, but I think that's kind of the new boundary to be break.
Yeah, and in terms of technology, right, Rodrigo, I think one of the things is that like the way we created experience, like the interaction with the digital world was like via like clicks, right, and selecting options. We also developed something with like voice command, and I think more and more the virtual world, it's allowing us to interact in different ways, right, even with our hands, and there are like many projects that you can do that. And also there are some projects working on providing haptic feedback, right, and the tactile sensation to the people in the virtual world. So I agree. I think that sooner, I mean, very soon we'll have something that's actually will allow us use us as clinicians not only to make decisions, right? That was this project, mainly in terms of like making decisions, but also to train psychomotor skills. I also see that's coming. Next question from Ricardo Casalino. Thank you for the explanation. How to turn the metaverse in the insurance company product? Is there an initiative yet? Where should we start? And Ricardo is from Brazil. He's the executive director of a insurance company, and we are discussing like some potentials, right, for this. Rodrigo, I don't know if you have any ideas, but I would say that VR, if you follow the market now, right, for corporate training, that's one area that I see like insurance companies, many other companies, like for corporate training personnel using virtual reality. And there are a lot of data even showing like return on investment on decreasing time that it takes to train internal personnel in different areas, medical device companies, insurance companies, but also the learning outcomes, right, that we are interested in here. And more than that, how the learning outcomes are translated into business outcomes, right? How, for example, one of the areas like training sales representatives and in VR, using VR or like the metaverse in general, and how can you short the time of training and increase sales, for example. And I know that Rodrigo also has some projects with other companies using VR, not only for medical training, but for other areas as well. If we can comment on that. Rodrigo.
I will add that there'll always be like barriers to be broken, right? So I think this boundary specifically, there are a lot of companies out there kind of exploring possibilities right now. I personally never had any insurance company kind of, contacting me and, offering me anything on the metaverse, just not yet. But eventually this will happen, right? So why? Because we know that the processes that we have today, they're not perfect, right? So for example, we call it the Web 2.0 centralized web. And the Web 3.0, we call it decentralized. But actually, the processes of decentralization are not completed yet. So for maybe some of you that are more like nerds like myself, maybe you heard about, that one of the blockchains that they were using to run crypto tokens was broken a few weeks ago. And they lost like $500 million. And all of a sudden they go back and they kind of fix what is, broken into that blockchain and then put it back. We know actually the full model is kind of, it's been developed in a very fast pace lately, but it's not perfect yet, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities especially for insurance companies, if you kind of notice those, small limitations here and there and kind of explore it and give people more confidence of, I don't know, investing in something or buying something. For example, there's another word that, we've been bombarding lately, which is the NFT world, right? So non-fungible tokens. And then most of the people look at the NFTs right now as, okay, I'm buying a picture, but NFTs doesn't necessarily need to be just like a picture. And they just put the JPEG or whatever type format into that blockchain. It could be anything. It could be a contract. It could be like your life insurance, for example, and no one will ever have access to it. Or it could be your will. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities right now. I think if you belong to a certain market that hasn't been disrupted yet, it's your chance to look at this market and see the opportunities.
Yeah. I agree, Rodrigo. And the other thing also for insurance companies, especially the ones that are verticalized and also are healthcare providers, right, is really digital therapeutics, right? The digital therapeutics and digital virtual reality, digital extended reality is really coming. Next month, we had 2 VR applications approved by the FDA as a medical treatment. and they are being reimbursed and covered by the insurance companies here in the United States, right? One of that is for back pain, low back pain. It's a virtual reality application that's went through like a clinical trial, improved efficacy and decreasing the number of like analgesic medication and improving pain measures. And now it's FDA approved. That means that the doctor can prescribe a VR application with the headset. The patient can take that and get covered by the health insurance, right? So that too will have a huge impact on insurance, absolutely. And there are a lot of that, especially mental health, PTSD treatment, and other mental health disorders using VR. Also, some people are starting using VR for psychological assessments and doing neuropsych assessments instead of being in person, using VR and the capability of technology to create that. So I see a lot of stuff in the medical care side, on the business side in terms of training, corporate training, because that's close to business outcomes, right? And the other thing I would say is really that for any type of technology, right? If you focus on the technology and try to find, say, I want to do something with Metaverse, and then try to find the problem to solve, it's probably not the most efficient way. It's better to think about what is the problem you want to solve, right? From like a business perspective, and then check if Metaverse is the best technology or the best way to solve that problem, right? Because otherwise, if you do the inverse part, that usually doing research, right? Spend a lot of time and effort, you're going to fail a lot, because at the end, for market, for business, what matters if you're solving someone's pain and someone's problem, right? And if there is a willingness to pay. So if you focus on that, and now you think, okay, how Metaverse and what's coming can be helpful to solve that problem. I really see, as Rodrigo mentioned, a lot of like opportunities for that. And also just remember, right, as internet, right? So no one had no problem within the internet because the internet didn't exist, right? So once something start to exist, the problems related to that start to exist, right? So there are a lot of things that unmet needs and unknown needs from the market that don't exist yet, and will start to exist as soon as we are more into this market. So, we have one more here, Rodrigo, so we can, 2:07. So we have a few more minutes. From Sam, directly from Canada. Amazing presentation. Makes me want to go back to medical school if this will be the new way to learn. To expand on the topic of developing methods for tactile feedback in learning procedures like decompressing and pneumotorics, is there any thought on work going towards using systems like yours as a method of providing remote clinical care? For example, using robot arms on the space station to respond to a physician using VR from Earth to actually perform the procedure. Very exciting things to come in this field. Your passion is contagious. Thank you very much, Sam. And in fact, Rodrigo and I were working on, so for the same NASA project, right? We have this part that's training, but there is a proof of concept of what NASA called ACT, Augmented Clinical Tool. How extended reality can be used to augment clinical care. So that's not about training, but it's really like real-time clinical support, right? So we're developing something in the lab using the augmented reality Microsoft HoloLens, right? It's an application that will help astronauts to perform ultrasound procedures in real time, right? So you have what we call like a AR coach, augmented reality coach, using that Rodrigo mentioned, the MetaHuman, that can guide the astronauts through certain procedures, right? And can also increase and enhance your visualization. For example, can display the ultrasound images overlay on your field of view, and also the patient monitor, and then someone from Earth guiding you. So instead of you looking different screens, right? You have everything on your field of view through a augmented reality glasses. So we are working on that in the very proof of concept, but we are applying for new grants on that area of real-time clinical decision support and remote care, as you mentioned. So that would be very interesting especially for augmented reality, right, Rodrigo?
No, absolutely. I think the word here is spatialization. Because if you can kind of spatialize your environment and spatialize a remote environment, then both environments can work together. You know what I mean? So let's say you're in a space station, there's an emergency, but that part of the space station, it's completely spatialized already. It was, I don't know, there's a bunch of sensors out there that can read across the room and understand, where is what. And then you have the same sort of a virtual environment on Earth. And then once you touch something on Earth, people over there will see that you touched something. So if the spatialization it's there, then anything is possible, like remote arms, remote controlled arms, or suggested notations, or even meta-humans mimicking what you're doing on Earth in space, and that everything's possible. But I think the very basically the very basic level of everything is the specialization, which means you need to capture everything, and you need to have digital twins of everything, remote and local. Then you can combine them together.
Yeah. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Roger, in robotics, and I'm not that familiar with what they're doing from a distance point of view, but with Da Vinci, one should be able to do surgery from another country using the robotics. Are we doing that yet?
So what I see, Chuck, what I seen is it's more like guidance. So for example, there is an interesting project using Microsoft HoloLens. So as a surgeon here in the United States, I think in Michigan, and a surgeon in Rwanda, in Africa. And the surgeon could see, using HoloLens, right? The surgeon here in the US could see exactly what the surgeon in Rwanda was doing, and also was able to annotate. So for example, could describe, put some arrows and describe where they need to cut and something like that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think that the main issue with when you think about the amount of data and the reliability of data to control the arms, right? It's really about bandwidth in the distance, because the amount of information that you need and the limitation of latency could be huge. But I've seen one proposal from NASA. They were doing exactly that, Chuck. It was like a robotic via Da Vinci, but like from here to space. So the surgeon here could control that, but as a early stage research. Absolutely.
Neat stuff.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. And Rodrigo, last question here from you for you, because I have no idea. Is that from Abdullah? It's about blockchain, right? So it's about blockchain and decentralization. Thoughts on decentralization. This clearly will disrupt things with big tech, and I'm all for that. But in certain issues, a degree of centralization can be a little useful. How far should we go to decentralize tech, and why? What's the end point? Because right now it feels a little like the Wild West on the blockchain. Is semi-centralization a healthy solution?
Great question. Yeah, I love that question. So first things first, Wild West is not for everybody, right? So if you don't want to get shot, if you don't want to get into fights in the bars, that's not for you. But if you want, not that you want to get shot or get fights in the bar, but you want the gold, if you want adventure, that's for you. So definitely it's not for everyone, and it's not for the faint of heart. If you go back 25 years ago, 27 actually, everything was centralized, right? So I used to have an internet service provider. So basically I set up my own mail servers, news servers, web servers, and everybody, all my clients came to me, and they, I pretty much, had the control of all their connectivity. I opened the gates for them in order to go to another websites. I brought in emails that they received from abroad. And then obviously we realized that that level of centralization wasn't doing any good in terms of proliferation for the market. So obviously the next step was, okay, how much can we decentralized? How can I virtualize my web server? Sure thing. Then all of a sudden, yeah, you have Google doing this for like everybody. Can we decentralize my web server? Sure. Can we decentralize my data center? Sure thing. Now that everything is kind of centralized remotely, it's another way to say it. Then we're like, you know what? I kind of want that kind of back. I really would like to be the owner of my information. So I would say it's like decentralization 2.0, right? So I own my data. But if you give everybody's their data right now, first of all, I don't think 99.9% of people will know how to do with that, will know how to monetize on that, won't know how to explore that to the level that will benefit all of us. I'm not saying, and I'm not advocating for Facebook, Google, Apple, etc., kind of having all of your information and profiting out of your information. I'm just saying that if for some reason all of a sudden you receive all your data back, first of all, I don't even know if people will have a space to save all that data. So eventually they will need to put somewhere. So again, they'll virtualize their data somewhere anyway. So without being too philosophical, I agree. I think a level of centralization is healthy, but at the same time, we need to kind of push the boundaries. And to be honest with you, it's not even up to us. Again, it's like it's happening. I mean, if you like it or not, it's coming. So it's better for us to kind of move into that direction and tip our toes, if you want, like in this water, and understand a little bit better what are my boundaries and where do I like to explore a bit more in this centralized versus decentralized world. I think it's healthy. It's healthy for us in general. If you be more active and you be more informed on things that are out of our normal lives, right? Nobody, watching television, paying attention. Oh, should I change the channel right now to change my algorithm to kind of trick Netflix that I don't want to watch that? So nobody do that. We live our lives normally, but eventually, I think we'll be able to have some sort of a control in that information, and that would be great. I think it would be great for the entire society as a whole. We all will be more intelligent in the future because of that. We all will solve our problems faster in a more effective way in the future because of that. Decentralization. I think it's a positive thing, but as always, everything has kind of a both sides, opposite sides.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. So 2:18. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for bringing your passion and your experience, expertise. It's really helpful and great to have these discussions now. I'm sure in the very early stage of what's coming, right? I can't see. I think about imagining what's gonna come in the next 20 years, and it would be great to remember that we had this discussion like in the first year of that revolution.
Exactly.
Very sure that the revolution is coming in terms of technology. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending today, for asking questions. Really appreciate that. Have a great week.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Have you guys a great day. Bye-bye.